would like to get started. My name is Bradley Flam. I'm the director of the Office of Sustainability, and I'm very glad to welcome all of you on this Zoom presentation today. This is the originally scheduled final presentation in the Fall 2020 Sustainability Research and Practice Seminar. We had one postponement, and so 2 weeks from today, after Thanksgiving break, we'll have Professor Mahbooba Minar from Rowan University's Department of Geography and Sustainability presenting. So please come back in 2 weeks for that, the final week of classes at Westchester. I do want to express my gratitude to the Sustainability Council's Scholarly and Creative Activities Committee, to the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, and the Office of Digital Learning and Innovation, which are all co-sponsors of this series. So thank you for joining us, and please join me in welcoming our speaker today, Dr. Walt.
Well, thank you, Brad. This has been long in coming. Brad's been trying to convince me to give one of these for quite a while now, and glad to see everybody here, or at least your names. I see some familiar names, and I'm glad to be joined by some of my colleagues from the library. Thanks for your support. Okay, I'm assuming that I've been given screen share capabilities. Yeah, look at that. Okay. So here's the nifty cover slide that was provided. So Brad had finally convinced me to do this talk by kind of expanding the original notion that I had. But first, before I go any further, I think it is appropriate to acknowledge the land that we are on, the land of the Lenape, and in the true spirit of Thanksgiving, perhaps I would like to acknowledge the gift of the indigenous people of their values that underlie our, that influence our sustainability efforts to be more in harmony with the earth. So with that said, I think it's safe to say that everybody, even though we're in this virtual space, is coming into this from a part of the Lenape territory. Okay. Now, when Brad had originally started asking me to do a talk, I kept postponing it because I had this notion that we needed to be undergoing a renovation at the library, the main, the Francis Harvey Green Library, in order to be able to talk about all of these wonderful sustainability efforts that we were going to put into the renovation. But I think with this small group, it's going to be fun to kind of talk more about other more general ideas, in addition to just talking about the library as a physical place and the various efforts that have gone into it currently and perhaps in the future to reduce its greenhouse gas footprint and to approach zero waste and so on. So I will talk some about that, but libraries, in case you haven't noticed, have been undergoing a lot of transformations through time, but also quite a bit in the last couple decades, because more and more of the information that people get through libraries is occurring in what we would refer to as a virtual space. And in that transition, libraries as an idea, even though the actual look and feel of libraries has changed quite a bit. It's in many ways. Well, let's talk about the sustainability of libraries as an idea. A lot of people have talked about the demise of libraries with the increase in the virtual space and online information, but that that idea in itself isn't very sustainable, because libraries are here to stay. They perform a very important function in our society. And then we'll talk about libraries as a hub of sustainability ideas, and how libraries can be used to promote and disseminate ideas about sustainability. So on this slide, I've got a couple of pictures that I've got from the public domain. Just giving you an idea of how sustainable the ideas of libraries and the existence of libraries has been. On the left is a print depicting the Library of Alexandria from ancient times, with these scrolls on the shelves there. And then in the upper right is the modern Library of Alexandria, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina. I see architecturally, it's kind of inspired by depictions of the old library, but it's got 8 million book volumes, physical books, but it also has multimedia centers and conference centers. So it really does also embody the modern idea of a library. Now, I don't know if you can see it in the caption in the picture of the ancient Library of Alexandria, but its title is The Memory of Mankind. So the old idea of the library is primarily as physical repositories of the human cultural legacy. And that's embodied in the written language. And arguably the written language is human beings' most powerful technology. And libraries have, from the beginning of civilization, have been places where people go to read the word handed down from previous generations, communicating from one generation to another. And that's where our most cherished ideas have been stored. And in Western civilization, some of our most cherished ideas have been ways of controlling nature. I deliberately took a photo of this part of this shelf on in the stacks of the Francis Harvey Green Library. And unfortunately, the one book that I wanted to really stand out is that brown one. It says, The Dominion of Nature. And it might be a critique of it, but on the other hand, some of our most cherished notions in Western civilization is about controlling nature and understanding nature in a kind of an analytical way, which in and of itself is not sustainable when put into practice, although the aspects of the control of nature have been vital to our existence, of course. And when you think about libraries as physical repositories, in and of themselves, they have to control nature in a way, because these precious objects that traditionally have had our written language on them, scrolls, the codex, which is what we call technical name for bound books, they have had to be stored in places that control nature. And what I'm talking about are buildings. And buildings are what we as human beings have created to protect ourselves from the elements of nature and our material goods. And on the Westchester University campus, we have 2 library buildings, not counting the old library, which is now the Department of Anthropology and Sociology and the Museum of Anthropology and Archaeology at Westchester University. But we've got Francis Harvey Green Library on the left. We like to call it the Green Library, especially as we get more and more green features on it, like our green roof that you can kind of see in the middle. This is the library that has everything except for music. Most of you probably know this. On the right is the School of Music and Performing Arts Center, SOMPAC. The first floor that you can see down there is the Cressler Music Library. And there in the swerve that was reminiscent of a grand piano, kind of an iconic building in the world of music. So we can think of buildings as sets of systems within the cycles of matter and energy. So Brad, what's the percentage of greenhouse gases emitted by buildings in the United States? It's a pretty large number.
I don't know the exact number, but over a quarter, probably between a quarter and a third.
I've seen 30% or something like that. But buildings have flows of matter and energy, and some use that matter and energy more efficiently than others. And within our buildings, there have been efforts to be more energy efficient and to deal with waste going in, coming out. On this screen, I've just put some of the things that have been done over the years, many of which have also been done to other buildings on campus. There was a period of time when most of the buildings were outfitted with occupancy sensors and energy saving, more efficient light fixtures. Oh, and so a lot of the energy is used for lights and climate control. We have to be able to see the written word, right? And what else we're doing. So lights are involved in the climate control to create the conditions for our own comfort, but also to preserve the materials that are in the library. And as far as climate control, of course, the libraries are part of the geo-exchange heating and cooling. I think Francis Harvey Green was one of the first ones that was hooked up. You've got the green roof. There's a picture there. At this time of the year, it's not terribly green, but that helps with insulating the roof and also helps with water runoff. The information devices, I think it helps that each individual information device over time through miniaturization uses less energy, but I think that's probably offset by the increase in numbers of people using them. I don't have any exact numbers for any of these, but mostly what I'd like to do is to go through my slides. I only have 13 slides, and talk about some of these ideas and then have a discussion with the group. In terms of energy supply, I know that the university participates in purchasing renewable energy credits for clean energy. And I think we might be only up to 30%, or is it higher than that?
Without going into too many details, 30% is about right.
Yeah. So there's definitely some improvement there for the entire campus as well as the library's participation. In terms of matter, just for organizing thoughts, I put the different aspects of matter in solid, liquid, and gas form to be able to think about how the libraries participate in more sustainable efforts dealing with matter. The building materials themselves, the Swope building, or the SOMPAC, named after Charles Swope, but I put Swope there as though that was the acronym, but SOMPAC is the acronym. Has LEED certification, and I think a lot of that had to do with the types of materials that went into the building itself, including the library. And we make a great effort to purchase recycled content. Our purchaser that works in the main office and strong proponent of sustainability is Kristen Ergot. And she and I don't know if Sarah's not on this one, but Sarah is involved with the Green Office program, which is working towards more and more green procurements. In terms of recycling and waste, not long ago, we started this mini bin program to kind of cut down on the amount of things that people were throwing away. We have recycling. A number of years ago, we put printing limits. One of the big sources of waste in the libraries and around campus where there was printing was the system just seemed to encourage people to print a lot of waste paper. And now we've got printing limits on it and a system for it kind of has a little bit of control in it in terms of people setting up their print and then having to confirm that that's really what they want to print. And the big piles of wasted paper have been reduced to almost zero. And we've got air dryers in the bathrooms now. This is still, once again, kind of campus-wide things that's to cut down on the use of paper towels. And there's a lot of turnover in the materials, whether it's the electronic equipment or even books that are deaccessioned. We have a great deal of electronic waste recycling with certified waste recyclers, campus-wide effort, and also deaccession books. They're not reused, they are recycled. In terms of the water that flows in and out of the buildings, we've got these reusable water bottle filling stations. That helps with the material wastes of water bottles, as well as saving water. I wanted to acknowledge that wastewater is part of the natural cycles that are, as buildings, we participate in. And I don't know if we have low flush toilets, but that would be a way of saving water. Maybe something for the new building, the new renovations, and then runoff with the green roof. And in terms of gas or greenhouse gases, it's interesting to think about how, as much as we like to have the building as a hub of activity, remote access through online resources has probably cut back some of the commuting that comes to campus. If people in the old days used to come just to the library, to drive to the library to do some research. We've got the bicycle racks in front of the library to encourage that kind of commuting. And I put carbon sequestering in terms of the tree canopy on the grounds around the library and the campus in general. We are going to, at some point, it's been postponed, have some re-landscaping around the library. And in the short term, we'll probably be coming back on this sequestering, but over the longer term, as the plants grow in, there'll be more of that. So that's the buildings as physical places. And this may or may not be a comprehensive list. I tried to find out as much as I could, and there may be many other things that can be done with the future renovation and so on, and or even prior. But then libraries nowadays are a bit different, and rather than just physical places, they'll continue to be physical places with all of these considerations. But libraries, this is a definition that I came up with, and my library colleagues, be interesting to hear what you think. And also everybody as a library user, Libraries as nodes in a global knowledge network with physical spaces serving as local hubs of community learning, creativity, and problem solving. And got a nice picture by our Associate Dean of the Libraries, Amy Ward, on the left. I took the picture last week or two. On the right, I wanted to get something that looked more hub-like. That's the physical space. There's a couple people there, but that's COVID times on the right, and that's non-COVID times on the left. And that actually speaks to this phenomenon where the libraries as virtual spaces is a transition accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, because we have had to increase our reliance more on online sources. Library instruction has gone to be entirely online. Library help is entirely online, I should say, except, well, research help is entirely online, but people have been able to come to the library and get help with checking out materials and so on. But we've really kind of had to embrace libraries as virtual spaces, which we have for the last couple decades, but it really has been accelerated. And I have a few of the little nifty pictures that were put together that appear on our website to remind people of our availability. We have Gary Childs on the call here, who's been very involved with putting together these library video tutorials with his group there. So a shout out to Gary for that. But even if when libraries are increasingly part of virtual space, our connection then with other systems in this interconnected web just continues to increase. And there are various considerations to make in terms of what the impact of that is. Now, first, I'd like to talk about academic libraries as participants in the scholarly communications ecosystem. And there's a couple of pictures that I've gotten from a couple of sources here that kind of illustrate the scholarly communication food web, as it were. They both pretty much depict the same thing, but they emphasize different things. Now, libraries are a central part of that. Most of the knowledge that is created, evidence-based knowledge, is disseminated in the fundamental unit of the peer-reviewed scholarly article. And many, if not most of the scholars are based at academic institutions, and all academic institutions have libraries. And the libraries are where those scholars go to find the previous research that informs the research that they do to find evidence to produce new knowledge. And it goes in a cycle. So the library's collections inspire future research done by scholars, and then goes through the peer review process to evaluate that evidence, the quality control, and then those articles that are published as a process, through the process of peer review, are then put in the libraries. The second diagram here gives a little more detail with all the different processes. The discovery and dissemination in this orange block here is mainly where the libraries are there, but the research, data collection, and analysis based on foundation of previous research, and the writing, the authoring, peer review. See, here's where the scholars are here. Scholars also do the peer review. That's why it's called peer review. Then publication, and then those publications are, I'll say, housed in the library, but these things being mostly obtained online now, the housing is a lot more complicated than it used to be. So I've got the list of the participants here, kind of sums it up. Scholars produce the research that is published by the publishers, and then the discovery and dissemination is done through databases, which are subscribed to, in addition to the actual publications, by libraries, which are then available, make them available to the scholars to continue that reiterative process of increasing the sum total of knowledge by humanity. Okay, so this whole process has been kind of going through a transition, and so there are questions about the sustainability of this process. And some of the threats to this truth-seeking endeavor have to do with where people are getting their information these days. So competing with social media and our post-truth era that we're going through, times of fake news and so on. So this process is something that is very important to maintain and to strengthen. And some of the historical problems with sustaining the scholarly communication enterprise had to do with high corporate publishing profits. So there are lots of learned societies that publish scholarly articles and so on, but there has been, the field has been dominated by these mega conglomerates, especially ones that have been growing since the 90s and the onset of more and more online publishing. But the high corporate profits had preceded that. Scholarly publishing has one of the highest profit margins of any business, like 38%. And this model was where most of the labor is done for free by the scholars, the writing, the editing, the peer reviewing, but the commercial publishers then increase their prices of their subscriptions traditionally to exceed the price of inflation on an annual basis. And that's why they're being able to sustain such high profit margins. But this comes in direct conflict with the necessity for the public to have access to the knowledge, the understanding of what underlies our physical world. So there has been increasingly this movement towards open access, and in other words, eliminating the paywall for the general public to get access to the information. And this too has been accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic because access to evidence-based knowledge is really necessary to solve the problems of the world, and our increasing problems, many of which have really stood out this year to everybody, such as health crises like the pandemic, climate change, which has become increasingly obvious to more and more people as a real phenomenon, and social justice and so on. So there have been some major movements towards making information more accessible to people, accessible to for free. But the article processing charges have to be paid for by somebody. So there's a bunch of models, and I'm not going to get into too much detail. There's these things called transformative agreements where an institution or a nation or a consortium of institutions pay for the article processing charges, so that then instead of a subscription, so then the articles themselves become available to everybody. And this has especially been important in the area of publicly funded research, like that funded by taxpayers' money that then is channeled through, say, the National Science Foundation or the National Institutes of Health, and then pays for the research that the public has paid for. And this is true for other countries as well, to have that available. But then there are different models where the author pays for the fees, or the funders, or libraries, instead of paying subscriptions, would pay for the processing charges. Institutions or consortium of institutions. So all those models are in play, and there are various terms now for these things that I attempt to understand. When I read about them, I say, what is the actual mechanics about this, like transformative agreements or Plan S? But they're all trying to move from a subscription base to another way of paying. So, but there is a way of combining all that in a locally sourced way. You know, we talk about shortening the supply chain towards more sustainable efforts in food and in energy and so on, but we can also do that in scholarship, and that's something that we've been doing. So we generate knowledge here at West Chester University, and for their tenure and promotion, our faculty do go through that the traditional scholarly communications ecosystem to get their articles published in high impact and globally recognized journals. But some things don't need to go through that process, or don't lend themselves to that, such as sustainability seminars. So we can be the locally sourced scholars, editors, reviewers, publishers, disseminators, and librarians for much of our own material that is part of the dissemination of sustainability ideas. And this is kind of the meta part of my talk, because we're talking about things like these sustainability seminars. And we have, as Brad mentioned at the outset, where these seminars go onto the digital commons at West Chester University. And what I'm going to do is I think I have to stop sharing before I share something else. I'm going to dive into live, online. Let's see. I think I have to open it first. Okay. There we go. Okay, here is the homepage for Digital Commons at West Chester University, which we've had since 2013. And there are some locally generated scholarship, such as master's theses and doctoral projects. We've got a student research journal called Ramifications. There's going to be another journal that's going to be on there in the not too distant future about higher education. And if we go into this larger thing here, Research Unit Center Department. Okay. We do have any open access articles that are published in the scholarly literature is posted on the various departments. We have all the departments represented. There are some unique things there, but in terms of sustainability, this is where at the level of all the colleges and other units, we've got our sustainability research and creative activities at WCU section. There's a new WCU Museum of Anthropology and Archaeology section there, which might have some things that people would find interesting. And a number of years ago, when we first started this, working closely with Jerry Hertel, who was Nora Ritter's predecessor as a steward of the Robert Gordon Natural Area for Environmental Studies, we put a lot of material there. But if we just go here to the sustainability items, we've got a few subsections here, grants reports, and a place to look up initiatives, but here's where the seminar presentations are. So you can go through here. 2020, we really have picked up the momentum, haven't we, Brad, in getting these posted. Go through and pick your favorites. We've got both the slides that you can download and the video, and you just hit that. It's embedded in there, brought over from YouTube, and you're good to go. So lots of good material here, but the point is this is something that you can't find anywhere else. You can find the ideas elsewhere, but this is where we generate our own dissemination of our scholarly ideas that have about sustainability and other things that has transpired here at Westchester University. And here's the thing. It's available to people all over the world, and you might not be aware of this. This is really fun, but you can go down and almost feels like real time, but see where these various articles we have posted on here are being downloaded all the way around the world. And this is just 217 in the past day. And you can see them drop here. It's kind of mesmerizing. So I think it's safe to say that we have a global impact. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that and get back into my slides here. Okay, but the thing is, even though it seems like all of this stuff exists in the cloud, and we might not think about the actual physical and global impact of this virtual system that we are part of, the servers, the other infrastructure that's part of this does have an ecological footprint. So, oh, and here's the thing. This B Press is the name of the company that we get digital commons through. We have a contract with them, and they provide all the server space and the customer support and the platform in which we can post all of these things. And B Press stands for Berkeley Electronic Press, so they're based out in the Bay Area in Berkeley, but they were recently made part of the Elsevier publishing mega conglomerate. You saw the Elsevier logo. They are the most notorious company for having those huge profit margins in scholarly communication. And there's a whole history behind that. But now B Press is all part of that And I haven't seen any negative effects of that so far. Elsevier tends to have a bad reputation amongst librarians due to their high subscription prices. But I did a little investigation. Actually, I asked our customer support person for some information about how they deal with their ecological footprint. And the servers, speaking of mega conglomerates or large corporate entities, the servers are part of, that they use are part of Amazon Web Services. But Amazon Web Services has got this big elaborate website where they're promoting their sustainability efforts, and they say they have a goal of running upon 100% renewable energy by 2025. And what they're doing is that they are building a lot of solar farms around the country. And the servers use a lot of water for cooling, and they're making efforts to make that a lot more efficient. And they've got these little kind of nifty looking cartoons that kind of represent those efforts, and I put them on the slide here. And in talking to the people at BPress themselves, they do a lot of electronic device recycling. Actually, when they were taken over by Elsevier, apparently all the employees had to get new laptops. And so they were saying how much they made an effort to recycle all the old laptops. And I guess since they live in the Bay Area, their ethos is very much a sustainability ethos amongst the employees. And I was told that they try to cut down on the carbon footprint of their commuting to the offices, and they do a lot of recycling and composting. So my main point is that we may think that there's less of an impact on the earth with fewer and fewer material, books, fewer trees getting cut down to make the books in the library, but they're more and more integrated with larger efforts. Okay, so where are we at this point? Well, we're definitely going increasingly virtual with all that it implies. And it seems like we are going to increasingly open resources, but how about increasingly inclusive? So I think it's up to the individual librarians who make the purchasing decisions, and I certainly do this, purchase the materials that provide alternative narratives. And I'm paying homage here to Robin Wall Kemmerer, and some of us on this call had heard her keynote speech at the Global Conference on Sustainability in Higher Education. She uses the metaphor of the braided sweetgrass coming from her Potawatomi culture. And she's also a biologist with background in Western science, as well as in her indigenous tradition and indigenous understanding of the world. And braiding those two together, particularly with the values of being at harmony with the earth, it comes from her indigenous background and the power of Western science to understand phenomena. So I kind of or paraphrased the expression that she used. So to bring more voices into changing our collective story as humanity from one of an extractive and exploitative society to one of a regenerative and inclusive society. So we have Robin Wall Kemmerer's books in our library, as well as others that speak to that change. So I have a lot of questions on this page. So I'm going to stop sharing and leave it open.
Thank you, Walt. Wow, lots of important ideas here, and I know I have questions, but I want to open up the conversation space to everyone else who's on the call right now. I will say that we're close to 12:50, and we often sort of pause at that point to give people who do need to leave for another class or meeting or appointment a chance to do that. But Walt, I hope that you can stay on a bit longer if there are questions and conversation.
Oh yeah, sure. I just have to dash down the road to my optometrist to pick up new contact lenses at 1:30, but that's just down the road.
Okay, great, good. All right, so let's please just unmute yourself and pose a question or a comment as you have.
A nice comment from Terrence, thank you. Just before they left.
Walt, just one thing to mention and ask about. As I'm new to the university, and of course getting comfortable with the university in the COVID setting is interesting, but when it comes to really the publications coming from our students, our theses, our dissertations, and really our expanding role as we're looking into different degrees, and really we kind of see that expansion into graduate degrees going on that is occurring organically within our institution right now. I'm not aware of the exact policies are when it comes to our students actually making these dissertations and theses. Is there any type of print format that we're currently accepting, or are we currently utilizing a fully digital model with that?
Kristen just said bye. Bye, Kristen. Yeah, we have gone to the online version. The students now have the option of coming to the library like they had done before to get a printout or to get a bound version of it, but it's not required of them anymore, and they have to pay for it. So we pretty much are making that transition. I think we do make our own bound version actually for the shelves.
I'm just thinking from that role of preservation and really accessibility, right? So yeah. Certainly really having that electronic copy is so much more accessible to everybody else across the world. And in terms of preservation, granted, digital format and so on being excluded from this because, wow, that can be a tangled archival web as well. But really true preservation at this point, because these are such unique objects, and sometimes that physical copy gets damaged, sometimes by malicious intent with somebody razoring out pages, but also in cases of just happenstance, floods, water, somebody bringing it to their house and it's raining. So really seeing the digital conversion with the master's theses and the dissertations, I think, is a really important step. And it's nice to see that and learn more about that today. Thank you, Walt.
Yeah, they're definitely a lot more accessible to the general public. And I can tell from the readership map, you can look at that and people are downloading them. People do like access to the student work because the students are sometimes addressing things in a way that people had never had before.
I just wanted to say that was so neat when you showed us the map of, who all's accessing and downloading.
Oh, it's amazing.
I had never seen that before. All the times that I've been on the digital commons, trying to, get presentation links and things like that. I had never noticed that.
Yeah, you have to scroll down.
Yeah. That is really cool.
One time I was, oh, go ahead, Brad.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm curious about the role of Westchester University's Digital Commons resource as focused on local knowledge, and the extent to which we publicize and make accessible the documents and the resources on Digital Commons to the wider Chester County community. I mean, is someone who goes to the Chester County Historical Society, do they know that there's this repository of really important documents and resources just at their fingertips on a laptop or just down the road at the Green Library?
They might not.
That might be, I imagine that library resources rightly should be focused on the Westchester University community, but it might be a good thing in terms of our connections and collaborations with community organizations and members of the larger Chester County community to let them know that this is accessible, and you don't have to be a student or an employee of the university to have access to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there could be a lot of benefit in reaching out. There's some good historical material about Westchester on the site, because Jim Jones, retired history professor, he has an online book that's now on Digital Commons. He used to sell them, but then he wasn't selling the print copies anymore, and he said, let's just put the electronic version on Digital Commons. So he's got this whole book on Westchester industrialization, on the railroads, on a crime scandal from the 60s. And this was a pretty painstaking effort. I had ingested his website that he had done with students about Westchester history, many, many different aspects of it, and put it onto the Digital Commons platform. And all of those things are very findable by doing a Google search, but you have to know. Some of the most popular material on our Digital Commons are two of Jim Jones' books, the one on Westchester industrialization and on the railroads. So people are finding them, but whether or not the Historical Society knows about them, maybe not, but it'd be nice to talk to them. We'll talk to them through the Special Collections Librarian Ron McCall has a special relationship with them. I'll bring that up with him.
Well, and I think about your publication on Plum Run and how useful that could be to K through 12 students, to just people in the community who know that there's a stream running through the community, but might not know anything about it. That's a really valuable resource, and letting more people know that it exists and providing access to them, I think, is an important contribution the library can make.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll talk to Christian Sammartino about that, right, Gary?
Hey, I like Christian, and he can definitely elevate a ton of our publications. And I'm really, Brad, with what you're talking about, you're mentioning our own faculty scholarship as well. And this gets in the weeds a bit here, but I'm really interested in using Digital Commons as well as another potential way to mirror publication, right? And we might have to consider an embargo period with a publisher. Maybe we even have to take a look at, those contracts we're signing before we put our names on that dotted line, and see if we can work out where maybe it's not available immediately, but perhaps after a 2-period year amount of time, that those items can go up in digital commons, at least in preprint format or
Mhm.
something like that. And Walt, are there any efforts currently going on related to that? Sorry, my dog's contributing to the conversation.
Cookie Monster. Well, for as far as the master's theses and the doctoral dissertations, they do have the option of putting a embargo on that, and students have, because they'll have the intention of publishing it, and that's necessary to keep that under wraps until it's actually published. So, more and more, I've also been getting faculty to give me links to their blog posts. But see, those are also available somewhere else. It's the unique content that's not published anywhere else that Digital Commons really gives a nice opportunity to put out there. Oh, and Jenna is on here. She's the special collections technician. And Jenna, are you, do you talk to the Chester County Historical Society very much?
I haven't had the chance to yet, but I know Ron does want to like continue and grow that relationship in the future. So that's a good hope, because we have a fair amount of Chester County and local regional items and special collections.
I would imagine that could be a priority. You know, our strategic plan, the university's strategic plan, Pathways to Student Success, one of just 5 themes in that document is community engagement, and looking for ways for university offices and divisions and departments to reach out and collaborate. Courtney's an excellent example of that, by working in our campus gardens, but also working with the Westchester Green team and gardening organizations in the community. She's helped us make that kind of connection in a really important way. I had a few other comments, some sort of detailed and specific, and others kind of big picture, but I don't want to overwhelm the conversation if others have questions or.
Well, now that you sort of met Jenna and you sort of met Gary, explain who you are for those who don't know.
Sure. You know, Walt and I work really closely together. We share a lot of science related responsibilities. So I'm the new engineering STEM H librarian. It's a lot of topics, so it's really, really challenging. And I love it to pieces, though. Really, my background is heavily based in the health sciences. My own personal background's in psychology, and then I was at Drexel University previous to coming here to Westchester University. And really, I worked really closely with nursing programs, or physical therapy. So I'm excited to reach out to kinesiology and that sort of thing to here. Need to build up a strong relationship, but you know, which is really challenging in our current environment. So, but I'm definitely trying my best. And certainly, if any folks from here are from those related disciplines, please reach out to both me and Walt, depending on who our exact our relationship should be or would be with. And sometimes we have to be like, well, I'll take that one, you take that one, which is great. So this is a lot of fun, and I get to collaborate with Walt on some projects, which I really, really enjoy, and he's just welcomed me to this university and really made me feel comfortable here, as has the whole WCU community. It's been great.
And
Yep,
Gary,
we are
I
very
think
lucky to have Gary. But
Gary, I think you and I were on several of the reaccreditation reviews of some of the sections of that report. I remember you contributing quite a bit to those conversations.
And I'd like to also point out that Jenna has been integrally involved with the transcription of William Darlington's letters. And William Darlington.
Project.
Is that?
It's been a fun project to do.
Yeah. And I think that's totally sustainability oriented.
Absolutely. The presentation a couple of weeks ago in the evening about that project was just fascinating. I assume that recording is on Digital Commons somewhere.
Not yet. But
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet. Good point. Yet. Operative word yet.
Can I throw out just a few quick comments? I know we're past 1 o'clock and folks probably need to get to other things, but I did want to mention a couple of sort of small things. One, I'm glad you mentioned water consumption in the building. It's important. Water isn't a topic we've really focused on much at Westchester University, neither in facilities nor for the sustainability impacts. But I think that the library staff, particularly those of you who work in the Francis Harvey Green Library, I think you're a really unique community to communicate with our facilities division on campus, because you are a unified group of employees in a single building on campus.
Interesting point. Yeah.
That's fairly uncommon, and you're knowledge focused. And I think that gives you an opportunity to reach out and work with folks in facilities, particularly as renovations to the library move forward in the coming years. I think you've got a really unique opportunity to highlight the sustainability focus in your real world and your virtual operations in a way. And water might be one area where you can focus on that. Another thing I wanted to say is that one thing I've really found valuable about the libraries that have been important in my life over the years, and there have been a lot of them, both for me in my scholarly career, as well as, you know, being a parent to 2 kids who have loved libraries over time, is the role of libraries as a meeting space, not just for those who are already part of the community, but for the larger community as well. And your colleagues have been helpful when we have wanted to do events in the library, but it's been difficult because you don't have a lot of space that's really adapted to bringing the outside community in large numbers. And personally, one of my hopes for the renovation, for the work that's going to happen in the future, is that there will be more open sort of auditorium meeting spaces that will be more accessible than the few meeting spaces, classroom spaces that you currently have. That would be one of my hopes. The last comment I wrote down, it's really big picture, and it's not a question per se, but I appreciated your comments about sort of the practice of knowledge creation and the role of libraries in that process of knowledge creation. I think it's a critical role in that. But it made me think about the fact that very quickly with this series of presentations, we changed the title from Sustainability Research Seminar to Sustainability Research and Practice Seminar. Practice and professional experience are a different way of knowing, and they don't fit into that sort of scientific method knowledge creation process as neatly as the scholarly effort does. And so Digital Commons has been a repository of recorded presentations and PowerPoint slide decks that relate to practice and practical ways of understanding and interacting with the world. And it just, you know, it occurs to me that that's also a role that libraries can play, but it doesn't fit as neatly into that scientific method. And that related to that question of knowledge and the role of knowledge in the justification, the purpose of libraries, is something one of my advisors when I was a master's student used to talk about. His name was Barclay Jones. He was a regional scientist at Cornell University when I was doing my master's there. And he liked to talk about the ladder of ways of knowing. And he talked about a ladder going up from data to information to knowledge
to
wisdom at the top. And it's just sort of an open thought, how does wisdom fit into the work of a library? Because it's sort of a different thing from knowledge. So anyway, those were comments that occurred to me as I was listening to your presentation.
Yeah, I really appreciate those, Brad.
Well, we've gone to almost 1:10 p.m. Thank you, Walt, for being generous with your time and staying on, and for all the thought and effort you put into this presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all for attending.
Great. Amy will get you a recording of your presentation to go up on.
Okay, and I will post it along with, I guess I don't have to send her my slides.
I guess you don't, but would you please do so? Because we have an archive of
I'll definitely
separate.
Okay.
Yes, this is kind of a very meta presentation.
Exactly. Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
this has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Walt. I hope
I finally did it.
you did it. Yay! Thank you. All right. We hope to see you in 2 weeks for my former colleague and friend Mabubur Minar's presentation. Some of the research he's been doing at Rowan University. That's on December 2nd. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.